Buckle up, because this one's going to burn straight through the paddock like nitro in a war zone. The Marc Marquez scheme, the policy that made Ducati breathe easy. Let's call it what it really is. Not a signing, not a gamble, not a fairy tale. It's a goddamn masterstroke, a declaration of war dressed in red leather. Ducati didn't just hire Marc Marquez, they rewrote the future of MotoGP. The moment that pen hit paper, history felt the tremor. Everything Ducati had built over the last 5 years, data dominance, technical excellence, multiple champions, was strong. But it wasn't bulletproof. Not until now, because Marquez isn't a rider. He's an extinction event. Stoner gave Ducati a title, a beautiful, violent one-off in 2007, built on genius and chaos. But what Marquez is doing? This isn't a battle. It's a purge. And every lap is a funeral for the legacy of the grid's best 5 years. So where did everyone else go wrong? They didn't. They just happened to wake up in the wrong chapter of MotoGP, the one where Marc Marquez is busy erasing everything they've built, point by point, sector by sector, like it was all a bad dream. Ducati didn't just find salvation, they bought insurance. And the premium? Blood. This ain't your normal Ducati era. This is something else. Let's be honest, Ducati was already the Death Star. They had the tech, the satellites, the champions, the podiums. Bagnaia brought them double crowns. Martin looked set to inherit the throne. The Desmosedici became the benchmark, the yardstick, the damn blueprint. But somewhere deep in Borgo Panigale, someone asked a question that changed everything. What if all this isn't enough? What if KTM wakes up? What if Aprilia stops bleeding talent and starts harvesting trophies? What if Pecco gets shaky, Martin gets political, Sunger and the Japanese factories finally crawl out of their coma? That's when the idea turned into action. Ducati didn't just sign a rider, they triggered a scheme. Call it what you want, the Marquez policy, the red gamble, the Sicilian strategy. But make no mistake, Ducati walked into 2025 knowing exactly what they were buying. A rider who doesn't adapt to chaos. He manufactures it. Marc Marquez, Ducati's insurance policy from hell. Let's talk brass tacks. Ducati had everything going into 2025. Reigning champion Pecco Bagnaia, title-fighting Jorge Martin before he played musical chairs with Aprilia, a grid full of red, Gresini, VR46, Pramac, before Yamaha stole them, a decade's worth of telemetry and blood-soaked data from every damn corner of the world. But still, they weren't safe. Because the problem with building an empire is the rebellion is always cooking. Aprilia and KTM weren't static. They were sharpening blades in the background. Pedro Acosta was maturing like a bomb about to go off. Even Yamaha, desperate and chaotic, had fire in their gut and nothing to lose. Ducati needed a firewall. So they called the one man who doesn't ride the best bike, he makes the bike better by just existing on it. Marquez. 8 Grand Prix wins, 11 sprint wins, a 120-point championship lead over his own blood, Alex Marquez. That's not dominance, that's extermination. Bagnaia admitted it straight. The bike wasn't the best today, but he was. That's not flattery, that's a eulogy. The destruction of balance, Marc on a Ducati. You give Marquez a decent bike, he'll make magic. You give him a title contender, he'll make a massacre. But you give him the best bike on the grid, you unleash a monster with no natural predator. Pecco used to be the face of Ducati, now he's just collateral. At Brno, every other Ducati rider was struggling with front-end grip and stability. Marquez? He danced through the chaos like he was reading sheet music only he could see. 4 laps in the 153 range, something no one else came close to. And this was after crashing in qualifying. This isn't adaptation. This is domination. He's not fighting the bike, he's using it like a weapon. Everyone else needs the bike to suit them. Marc just needs a throttle and a reason. What they really bought, the real Marc Marquez scheme. Forget 2025. Ducati could have won this title without him, but that wasn't the play. The real prize is 2026, 2027, and whatever black hole the rulebook dives into after that. The engine freeze for 2026? Ducati don't care. They've got a man who will win even if the engine's duct taped together. The 2027 changes. 850cc, No aero, no ride height trickery, no whole shot devices. Less weight, more chaos? Everyone else sees disaster. Ducati sees opportunity. Because while the rest of the grid fumbles in the dark, Ducati has a flashlight. And that flashlight rides with number 93 on his chest. Marquez has adapted to garbage Hondas, twitchy fronts, broken bones, and worst-case scenarios. He's already ridden into hell and dragged trophies out of the fire. There is no era, no configuration, no spec where he can't win. Building a bike around a god. You think Gigi Dall'Igna is sweating? He's smiling. Marquez isn't a project, he's the final piece of the puzzle. Ducati finally gets to do something no other team ever had the luxury of: build the ultimate bike for the ultimate rider, with zero compromises. The feedback Marquez gives is pure gold. Not because he's smarter, but because he rides deeper into the bike's soul than anyone else alive. His comments aren't abstract, they're surgical. He tells you what the bike is really doing. That's why every Ducati engineer is walking around with a half chub and a notebook right now. They're building the future of MotoGP with a man who can test the limits without flinching. Aprilia and KTM, the right moves at the wrong time. Bezzecchi is flying. Acosta is finally hitting. Martin is motivated. But guess what? It doesn't matter. They're playing their best cards, but the game is rigged. At Brno, 3 Aprilias made the top 7. Acosta pulled off 2 podiums after 11 rounds of nowhere, and still, they were racing for second because Marc Marquez exists and he's turning every opponent into a spectator. They're not doing anything wrong, they're just doing everything too late. Rider market ricochet, the psychological collapse. Marquez didn't just shift the standings, he cracked skulls in the paddock. Jorge Martin, screwed, rejected, then shuffled to Aprilia like a pawn in a board full of kings. That kind of humiliation leaves scars. Bagnaia, watching his own team celebrate someone else's dominance. That's not easy, that's trauma. Everyone else? They're already counting on 2027. But what if there is no light at the end of the tunnel? What if Ducati's got this thing locked for years, and the only way to breathe again is when Marquez retires? That's the nightmare. Breathe easy, Ducati. The title's gone before summer break. The championship isn't even a fight anymore. It's a procession. That's what this Marc Marquez scheme has done. It's taken a championship that used to be chaos and turned it into a dictatorship. Other factories scramble. Ducati breathes. Because when everything goes wrong, when weather flips, tires explode, electronics glitch, there's one thing they can count on. Marquez will survive. No, he'll win. That's the policy they bought. Not hope, not insurance, certainty. A walking, talking guarantee that when the dust settles, the red flag will still fly over MotoGP. So go ahead, let KTM bring fire, let Aprilia engineer miracles, let Yamaha roll their dice, because it won't matter. Marc Marquez is rewriting the sport, one apex at a time. And Ducati, they're just cashing in on a plan that was never about now. It was always about forever.